Hey Guru Nation, welcome back to another episode of Random Musings from the Clinical Trials Guru. I got Simone Tomlinson from Columbus, Ohio. She is one of my LinkedIn friends. You know, she is somebody that started at the site level, which is extremely important. I think we need, more people need to understand that the site level is actually the best place to get started in clinical research. I mean, Simone, what do you think about this? You saw my post and you said, hey, Dan, I just want to let you know I started at the site level too. So we wanted to get, part of doing this show and this podcast is to get different people's experiences and perspectives and points of view, because I'm just one person. I can only speak about what I've done and what I know, but there's many different truths. There's not just one truth in this industry or in any industry. Simone has her own truths. I can interview someone next week. We can be talking about similar things, but they've got their own perspective. So Simone, thank you very much for coming on. We wanted to get Guru Nation to learn a little bit more about you, who you are, how you got started in research. So before any of that, thank you very much for doing this on a Sunday. I rarely do interviews on Sunday, but somehow it worked out. So thank you so much for being accommodating.
No. Thank you, Dan, for putting this content out there, getting people interested in clinical research, and actually, teaching them the processes of clinical research, the things that they need to know.
Thank you very much for that. So let's learn a little bit about Simone. Who are you, Simone? How did you even get started in research? What did you do before research?
Before research, I worked at a pharmaceutical company. I was in analytical development, so kind of like preclinical work. Bench chemistry, and was doing that for quite a while, and then I decided that I wanted to make the turn and go into clinical research. I didn't know how exactly to do that, so a friend of mine told me that she was also interested in clinical research as well, and so we were kind of helping each other out. And she said she saw this guy on YouTube, and I went on YouTube and I found you and started just binge watching the content.
It's always somebody on YouTube.
Yes.
But what made you want to go from bench research to clinical research? What made you want to do that?
Well, I wasn't really. The bench chemistry was fine for me, but I knew in the long run I didn't want to do it any longer, and so I was just trying to figure out what else could I do that I could use or the knowledge that I have and the degree that I already had. When I first looked into clinical research, I thought I had to get another degree, so I didn't jump into it right away. It took me about maybe a year to 2 years to actually make the transition into clinical research, but it was something that I thought I needed another degree for, and I was like, I'm not really up for that at this moment, so I pushed it off, and then later on I got back into looking into it and said, this would fit for me right now, so.
Gotcha.
And so I just took what you said, reaching out to clinical research sites. Literally, I went to a research site, talked to the person at the reception at the desk, see if I could speak with the manager, and they weren't available at the time. So I said, okay, I'll give them your email and they'll call me back and everything. So it was just a face-to-face interaction, just going to the research site and talking to them. Unfortunately, that didn't work because they said they weren't looking for volunteers at the time, so I was trying to volunteer to get experience.
You actually went to a research clinic and wanted to get volunteer experience, and they basically told you no. So how did you persevere and find your next one and your next one? What made you want to keep going? Because a lot of people, they'll just give up there, Simone. So why didn't you give up there?
Because I knew it was what I wanted to do, so I just wanted somebody to say yes and give me the experience. So from then on, once that person said no, I started to email different research sites, just in case somebody else said no. I didn't want to have to go there and all that. So I started emailing and phone calling. So it was pretty much just a Google search, clinical research sites, Columbus, Ohio. Whatever pops up, call, email, see if I can get in contact with someone who's a decision maker and see if they would need some help, as you said. Clinical research sites always need some help. So one site actually reached back out to me, and that's where I currently work at the moment. So
Wow.
they reached out, we talked on the phone, and they decided to bring me in. Now, I didn't think it was going to be a job interview at the time, but I ended up getting a job. I was just looking to volunteer, but they ended up offering me a job.
I mean, that goes to show you right there. There is a demand. And how long ago was this?
I started that job in March of 2019.
Okay, so that just goes to show you there's a demand at the research site level. I mean, I know because I own sites. I know people who own sites. They're always asking for coordinators. Hey, Dan, do you know a coordinator in this city and state? Or, you know, like I just had somebody named Carlos who worked for my site in San Bernardino. He moved to Ventura. I happen to know a clinic in Ventura. They're so happy that I referred him. Like, they love me now because, you know, it's hard to find a good coordinator. And so for you guys out there, like, sites need, and Simone's going to tell you the same, sites need help, and they need help getting patients. They need help getting studies, right? Like, every site needs that. And who doesn't need an extra, you know, if you're competent, which you Simone, you had it. You had the preclinical background. You're obviously meticulous, pay attention to details. That's what you do in bench research, right? So they understood that. So they know, hey, at worst case scenario, Simone can at least file regulatory and enter data in EDC. Like at least, like that's the floor for Simone. Now, more than likely, Simone can do all kinds of stuff. So they're like, hey, we think there's actually a lot of upside here. So no matter who you are, if you're out there wanting to get into research, you got to think about the skills you have. So how did that work with the email you sent to this site? And first of all, before they said yes, how many emails did you send to a bunch of sites, like to all the sites?
I probably emailed between 5 and 10 other sites. I also went on clinicaltrials.gov to see find local in my area, other clinical research sites. Because on Google there wasn't that many. I'm like, there's got to be more here. So I also used clinicaltrial.gov to find other research sites in the area that weren't listed on Google. So that's another tip. You told me that. So see, just using the gems that you give. You give all the information. People just have to use it.
Yeah, guys, you're hearing it from Simone. Okay, clinicaltrials.gov is like the best website in this industry if you're looking to get in or if you are already in. Like, people are always asking, how do you network? How do you, like, you go to clinicaltrials.gov and email people, and hopefully you're actually interested in their studies. If not, maybe you have some interest revolving around the therapeutic indication of some sort. But that's how you network, especially during coronavirus, right? Like now, Simone, like in July 2020, you can't really walk into someone's site. I mean, you could, but it's probably not the best strategy. You should be doing clinicaltrials.gov and emailing, because you can't catch a virus through your computer. You catch a different kind of virus, but not the coronavirus through your computer. So be careful with your computers as well, guys. Okay? So, wow, so you just literally went on clinicaltrials.gov, Google, started emailing people, and like most people ignored you, right? You didn't get, like 90% you got ignored.
I got response back from 3 sites.
Were they
so that's I think it was between 5 and 10 sites that I had contacted, and 3 contacted me back. 1 is where I currently work, and the other 2 were, no, they're not looking for anyone right now, and they're not looking for volunteers, so that was fine. The site that I currently work at, they were interested, so, you know, we emailed back and forth a couple times, then it was a phone conversation, and then they decided to bring me in for, I guess, what I thought at the time was just meeting me. I didn't think it was an interview, so I didn't really show up in my interview attire or anything. Yeah. It's funny that me and my manager right now, we joke now that Simone just showed up in jeans and combat boots.
You're ready to work. With all those emails you sent, 3 replied back. Did any reply and say, Simone, please do not ever email us again. You're very rude?
No.
No. Okay. So the worst thing that can happen is that people ignore you. That's the worst thing that can happen. Which, guess what, guys? If you're in Simone's situation, where she was a year and a half ago, okay, that's already happening. You're already being ignored. So whether you email or you don't, you're being ignored. They don't know who you are. So why not get those 3 from those 100 or so to reply, and then one of them you might even get hired at. So what have you done since you've been hired? How did it work? Like your first day? So you're saying it turned into a job interview like when you first came in?
Yes, yes.
Wow.
I wasn't aware of that at the time because I wasn't looking for a job at the moment. I was just looking to volunteer and seeing how I could possibly help, and so it just turned into a job. So after that interview, I guess they said, "Well, the PI is out right now, but we can bring you in next week to meet the PI." And so that's when I saw that it was okay. This is a job interview per se. Yes.
Wow.
And so I was just working as a research assistant at the time.
So I'm intrigued how that turned into a job interview, like from day one. So you showed up. They said go ahead and show up, to intern, and then they started to interview you on the spot.
Yeah, it was just like it wasn't really like a interview. Tell us your strengths. All that kind of thing. It was just more of a conversational, getting to know me. Getting to know what my plans are, what do you want to do with your career type informational session. And
okay, and then from that day they hired you like on the spot, or did you still intern for a little while before they hired you?
No, I was pretty much hired. So the next time that I saw them, they said they wanted me to meet the PI. So I met the PI, and then they said, okay, we're gonna think about it and give you a call if we want to hire you. And so it was about maybe I saw the PI the following week, and then shortly after that they decided to extend an offer.
Wow, okay. So since then, like, what were you doing? How easy was the transition, or how difficult was the transition from bench research to, I guess, research assistant first and then coordinator?
Yes, exactly. So I started out as a research assistant. The transition was not hard at all. The bench chemistry work is harder than the clinical research work that I was currently doing. So it wasn't a hard transition at all. So I knew how to read protocols, and it's basically following directions, making sure you're doing everything as the protocol says. And I have already been accustomed to that, so it wasn't anything new. I already knew GMP, documentation, all those things, so it wasn't a hard transition at all.
So I got a question. I'm going to have Simone answer this question, okay? Because you already know my answer. Somebody on Instagram's asking, do you have any advice for a first-time clinical research coordinator searching for a job in Chicago?
Chicago is a big metropolitan area, so there should be various amount of clinical research sites. Just like I did, you just have to contact them and go on their website if they have a website, to see if they have a careers page. If they don't have a careers page, you'll pick up the phone and call or email. It's pretty much as simple as that. If you don't want to move to Chicago's already huge. I'm sure there's a CRO or some sort of CRO office or something there, but there's plenty of clinical research sites, I'm sure.
Tons. I'm going live, otherwise I would look at this person's profile on Instagram and see. So by first time coordinator, you mean you don't have experience as a coordinator, is what I'm trying to get. So that'd be harder, but just like Simone did, okay? You go email a bunch of people on clinicaltrials.gov Chicago. If Simone did it for hundreds in Columbus, okay, and Columbus is not a small city either, you can do for 1,000 in Chicago. Well, I mean, why not? Chicago's huge.
Exactly. You just have to put in the work, pretty much.
Not only that, but I wish I could look at this person's profile now, but I'll mess up the live stream. But you have to think about what skills you have, okay? Like, right now what's hot is website. If you can do anything digital, right? If you can do digital ads, can you run Facebook ads? By the way, you don't need to be an expert in running Facebook ads. Sometimes just knowing more than the person who's going to hire you is value add to them. So learn how to run Facebook ads or Instagram ads. Learn how to set up a podcast or an Instagram channel and do some branding for the site. The sites need those three things. They need help with patient recruitment. They need help getting studies. They need help with other clinicians in their area. And then, like, the fourth thing, which kind of integrates into all of this, is online branding. So if you can do any of those things, they're going to bring you on to intern, but they're not going to guess. They're not psychic, so they can't sit there and say, hey, somewhere in Chicago, this person, this is her skills, and this is what she's going to do. You have to go out there and tell them this. Okay, and you have to tell 100 people, at least, with 97 of them ignoring you, for 3 to say, hey, we're interested, right? Or at least, like, hey, we're not, but thank you. We'll keep your resume on file. And then one of them or 2 of them might actually say, come on in tomorrow. What are you doing tomorrow? You know, and then you go in there and that's it. So what do you do now, Simone? You're a coordinator now?
Yes, full-blown coordinator. So I have a lot of studies right now. A coordinator is leaving, so I'm taking over his studies. And so there's a lot that I have to learn quickly. So next week is my week to catch up on all the studies because the coordinator that I'm replacing, he's going to med school. So that happened quickly. And so things are just rolling. But previously to that, I was coordinating about 4 trials and I was starting up a sub-site because the company that I work for, they are a site network. And so they, yes, you do site network as well. So does the PI that I work for. So
wow.
They partner with different sites, different physicians, and they do the regulatory and data management for the sites and budgets, contracts, those sorts of things.
So let me get to some of these questions on Instagram. I had a question from somebody. So it's amazing when you go at the site level, like you may know things theoretically. You know, like I have a lot of people now messaging me, you know, they're not doing that well in their job interviews. And it's because they're thinking too academic. And this is why I think everybody needs to do what Simone did and go. I mean, Simone got hired, but you just want to go intern and get some experience because you want to learn what is a regulatory binder. You want to learn what happens when there's a protocol deviation and what happens if there's many protocol deviations or how multiple sites interact with each other, like Simone and your site network, right? So a lot of these people who don't have the experience, they try to imagine this stuff, but it's very hard to imagine because this is one of the things where you just have to do it to understand, because you went from just becoming an expert like within probably 3 months, right? Like you got thrown into it and you just learn everything.
You just learn. Yes, you just have to be open. And, you know, from watching your videos, I already knew some of these words and topics that I needed to know, but actually being at the research site, actually doing the work and seeing the patients, knowing all the things that I need to, learning all the things that I need to learn, that definitely helps. Yes, you went over it in the videos, but I'm actually doing it when I'm at the research site. And that's the thing that you don't get if you're working at a CRO as a CTA or whatever the starting level is. You don't know what goes on at the site. But yes, the site is the end all be all because without the patients, there's no clinical research.
Mm-hmm. So what is your goal now, like for the next 5 years? Where do you see yourself, Simone?
Next, I want to go to remote monitoring, and then either possibly going to CRA or actually regulatory study startup. So those are my 2 paths that I'm thinking about right now. Definitely, I want to do the remote monitoring, and then moving on from there. Not sure whether CRA or study startup regulatory.
And how are you liking the site level as a coordinator?
The team that I have is very good. They're very knowledgeable. They've been in research for a long period of time. So the knowledge that I'm gaining is very beneficial. But from the beginning, I knew that I didn't want to stay at the site. So the site was just to get my experience and get me started. And then that would just propel me to the next level where I want to go.
And
starting with the research site, very good. You know, learning how the research studies work, understanding the protocol, understanding all the schedule of events that you need to do, all the procedures that you have to do. I'm learning a lot because I never had any patient interaction before, and now I'm seeing patients. You know, I'm drawing blood. I was nervous about doing that. So, you know, you're just learning a lot that I never thought of.
Right. And you're learning a lot of you're seeing a lot of the pain points now at the site level, which is going to be invaluable experience at the CRO level or at the sponsor level, because there are those people who never work at the site level and work at the CRO and sponsor, and they're a little bit out of touch with reality. And these organizations realize this, and they know that they need more people from the site level in those positions. So I think the site level, like Simone just demonstrated over those last 20 minutes or so, is the best place. The closer, I had a quote on Instagram, the closer you are to the action, and by action I mean where the patients are seen, the more likely it is you can become a generalist if you want to, right? And I think that should be the goal for everyone, is you're going to start out as a specialist. I mean, look at you with bench research. What you're doing is you're actually adding multiple specialties, and in the process becoming a generalist. So that's the best way to go about being recession proof, pandemic proof, whatever proof you want to call it. Be a generalist. What do you think about this idea?
Well, I think it's a great idea. I mean, you're learning a lot, so you have different areas that you could parlay into. So you're not just shuffled into just one lane. You could diverge and go into multiple different avenues. And that is what I like. When I was in bench research, that's kind of like I felt like I was just in one lane. I couldn't really parlay into different areas. So I guess that's kind of why I decided to make a turn, because from watching your videos, I saw the possibilities, and I still don't know all the possibilities. If I see the possibilities as a research site, I want to see the possibilities at like a CRO or a sponsor. I guess sponsor is like the end goal, I suppose. If I'm at the CRA level, I guess working for a sponsor would be like the end goal, because from watching your videos and the people that you interview, working for a sponsor, I guess there's more of a work-life balance, I would say.
Yes.
That's my impression.
I think that's accurate. I've never worked at a sponsor or a large CRO, but I've interacted with many, and that seems like the case. That seems to be the case for most of the people I've interacted with. Is sponsor, better quality of life, better all around atmosphere as far as working there, whether it's CRA or whatever it may be. Yeah, so guys, learn from Simone. Simone, if people want to reach out to you, I'm going to have your LinkedIn, right? The LinkedIn profile.
Yes.
I was going to say thank you very much for coming on. Is there anything else you want to add to the people watching right now? Like, some advice from Simone. You know how many people want to do what you did? So they want to hear from you. What's your advice?
You just have to figure out what you want to do and how you want to get there. I mean, if you want to start at the research site, that's a great start. At the very least, you could do patient recruitment, because I wasn't tech savvy. I didn't know how to make websites, social media. I'm not even on social media, so patient recruitment was like I knew I could do that. So at the very least, patient recruitment as your pitch, and see what happens. Goes from there. Contact multiple sites, see what happens. You just have to start doing something. Also, getting knowledgeable, watching Dan's videos, reading up online, know what you're talking about, having an idea of what clinical research is all about. Big picture. I'm not asking you to know all the ins and outs and details like that, but big picture. Contact sites, or even if you don't want to work at a research site, CRO, start as a CTA. You just have to decide to start and actually get your foot in the door. That's pretty much it. You just have to get your foot in the door.
Beautiful. Thank you very much for joining me on this Sunday afternoon, Simone. You have a good evening. You're going to have people reaching out to you. I'm going to have the LinkedIn links under there, so a lot of mentees are going to come to you, and they're going to be asking you for advice, because you're like a hero now to many. Like, people who actually take the advice. Here's the thing, guys. Like, if you persevere, it actually works. And like for you, Simone, I'm sure if these three that reached out to you all said no, instead of the one that ended up hiring you saying yes, let's say in an alternate universe, the third one said no also. Well, if you just kept doing it the next day or the day after, eventually somebody would have said yes. So it's just a matter of time, guys. It's just a matter of time. It's not luck, it's time, really.
Yes, I really do feel like it's timing, because if the site didn't have all this important trial coming up, then they wouldn't need the help, because they had the coordinators already. They were doing just fine. But this large trial came up, and so they needed the help with that, and it was just about the timing.
There you go, guys. So thank you very much, Simone, once again. Thank you, everybody, for watching, listening, and we'll catch you all later. Bye-bye.